Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Zwift Hub Live broadcast of the Chasing Tour. We're out on stage 16 in the rolling highlands of the newish world of Scotland. We're doing 4 laps, 41.1K, a whole lot of racing out here today. Chasing Tour, chasing yellow, and I'd say they did a pretty good job selecting the rolling highlands today to look and replicate what's going on in the Tour de France as best as the Chasing Tour possibly can. If you did not know, that's what Chasing Tour is up to for the month of July, and they do follow along as best they can the World Tour schedule, including the classics, Vuelta, Giro d'Italia, and of course, Chasing Yellow here with following along with Tour de France. So, Dave, we've got a big field, 177 starters. We'll get a little replay of some of the first few K. They're about 5.5K into this 4-lap race. What are you thinking about today, Dave? Oh, and I got you muted, I think, just as a heads up. I think, no worries.
Sorry there, Nathan.
Okay.
I'm thinking that you just said 177 starters. That does a heart good. That's a monster field to be rolling out with. That's actually pretty close. Well, Tour de France peloton quite a bit smaller than that now, as we've had to say goodbye to quite a few riders out there. But I would say, agreeing that the courses have been amazing as far as replicating the Tour de France each day. I couldn't imagine anyone doing better, to tell you the truth. So 4 stars there, that's for sure. So that being said, I won't give a spoiler on today's stage, but looking at yesterday's stage, not all that dissimilar as well. And is today the day for a breakaway? Seems like that's always going to be the age-old question.
And yesterday was a good one. Yesterday, I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I was screaming. If you didn't watch yesterday's Tour de France stage, and my son, I didn't get to watch it all day. Just a real quick my son, actually right before bed, he said, "Dad, can we stay up 30 minutes later and watch the Tour de France?" I was like, "Oh, yes,
Good.
of course you can do that." I was like,
That's
it was
great.
like immediately.
We've got him
And
trained
so,
right.
and so, well, there's also probably a little motivation. Can I stay up later, Dad? And if I give Dad the Tour de France key, oh, now we're really going to be staying up, So, but okay, cool. Let's do that. And I think he probably was like, what's going on with Dad? Why is he getting so excited because of the way that stage played out? I mean, at the end, just I didn't think that. I thought they were waiting too long. For those that didn't watch, I don't want to wreck anything, but it's a little late now.
At this point now,
Yeah, at this
by the time you
point,
get into the next day,
yeah, it's too
spoiler
late.
alerts are over.
Yeah, it's
you
over.
get one day.
You get one day. So
But
if you haven't watched they left it right to 250 meters for the breakaway, and then finally went. And I thought, did they wait too long? I was screaming at the TV.
It was amazingly like an esports race on Zwift, to tell you the truth, because the gap, it wasn't like it ballooned out to 15 minutes and then they brought it back and didn't quite make the catch. That group never was more than 1 minute and 30 seconds up the road for the entirety of the day, which is mind-blowing to think. I mean, and you could sort of say, as far as tactics go, and obviously it's esports going to be a little bit different than what you see in the Tour de France, but Alpecin didn't quite play their cards right. They actually should have let that break go farther out. And then they wouldn't have had riders trying to jump across. And it's all these dynamics. And even on that note, Nathan, talking about your son, he starts realizing, even though you weren't in a breakaway yesterday, he's already realizing the psychology of making sure that everybody has something to motivate them as well to be a part of this. If you have somebody who's there who has nothing to gain, well, that's going to be a spoiler. So, yeah, much like getting together a good viewing party, a good breakaway requires that you think about what's in it for everybody here and try to help them realize that along the way and minimize why you're there. And that's a lot of the psychology of racing, which we absolutely, I know I've been going on a long time here, but absolutely 100% replicate in esports is the mentality of racing, understanding how you can put your foot on the throat of a race or you can show mercy, but there's times and places for everything. So here we go. We're going to have a good day.
Go ahead and jump down real quickly into 100% agree with all that. And definitely, I wonder how it's going to play out today, though, in the tour as well, as I have not watched. So no spoilers on today. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at
I
how the
won't.
race started. I won't. The promises is here. Let's look at how the race started here. They did kick off at the usual pretty fast start. We do see, I believe, Karoo2 and a few others jumping into the initial kicks here out on course. And then as they got out on course, everything came back together pretty quickly. Jumping on over to what happened then shortly after, as they did hit the first time up and over the top of this climb with the breakaway bray. Or not, excuse me, not breakaway bray. What's the name of the climb here? To double check on this. Up and over. I guess it is breakaway bray. Excuse me. Yeah. And then as they went the first time up and over the top here, there was a little bit of a kick from Buell. We do have next with Brune jumping in here. Just noticing that actually as he makes his way to the front here, about 4.8 kilometers in. A little bit further up the road. This didn't actually separate anything, just put some sting in the legs, I think. Then a little further up the road, we did have a couple of moves coming in from William Karoo2 at about the 7.4 marker after they made their way through the Misty Forest. And that has been brought back together as they came by the turnoff over toward the major climb that they do not take on for the gravel climb out on the Scotland map. But they are making their way past the castle section, of course, though, at this point, as they're about halfway through their first time around out on course. So let's go ahead and jump right down into the live shots as the pack all back together and a lot of the big hitters showing up, it looks like today, Dave, which is going to keep things pretty exciting.
Yeah, speaking of big hitters, one of the things I love about racing here is you never really know. It's like going to a new restaurant every race, what's on the menu. And today, Jay Brune is out here racing. So the next insured star who has represented the United States at the World Championships, Iker Murel, is taking the start. Now, that's a rider to pay attention to today, the BL13 man. That is certainly going to be a part of the conversation when push comes to shove out here today. And then Nathan, James Young for TNT is in the field, and a blast from the past, Holden Camo has taken the start today. So welcome back, Holden. Good to see you out there. Richard Brackval as well is one of ESRT's riders who's very well suited to this course today. So Nathan, those are just a few of the riders to watch in this stacked peloton today. It's a great course for racing. Super Worlds coming up. I know people, we're going to go right from Tour de France into Tour de France Femme avec Zwift, which is what a gift that is, and then into Super World. So it's really almost 2 months straight of the highest level of racing. It looks like our first attack is maybe starting to roll or just pushing the pace right now. Really, we're going to be looking at 4 circuits on this World Championship caliber course, Nathan.
Now, what'll be interesting is how Holden Camo, who is a well-known top-of-the-line sprinter, how he may be looking to try and control the likes of, if you look at this, Diaz has shown up from WLC, Tarek is here, Brown from WLC, Wahoo Lacole have some big hitters. We also have South, and right as I say it, WLC are a little bit off the front. They even showed up with some steering here. This is it's going to be interesting to see if the peloton can control the likes of these teams that have shown up with quite a few of the riders. But there is Brune as well as Holden Camo, who's going to be very interested, I think, both of those riders in keeping everything together, because essentially you do have a sprinter's delight in some ways if they can control this enough, right? I mean, Dave, and that's the cool thing, actually, also, if we do want to relate to the tour a little bit, is that this is a stage of chasing yellow that will suit them in the end if they can keep this all together. And we might end up with a similar situation where some of our top sprinters in the world of Zwift racing up against each other. I mean, it doesn't get much better in the world of sprinting with a Holden versus Brune.
Really, Nathan, well said. It oftentimes comes down to that consensus. Like lately in the Tour de France, it's been hard for some of the teams to get any help out there. When you look at, I just want to pay attention to the racing going on right now, is there's a real surge going on. But we'll get back to that topic, Nathan, because you're absolutely right. There's a lot of riders who do want to sprint today. Some of them are being attacked with old school fury out here right now. One of the riders who's on the move, full tilt boogie, is Carlos Flores, who was a rider that was going to be mentioned shortly by me as a rider to watch. Big Dog is up there as well. Big Dog's been active in these series. So, Nathan, this race is full tilt right now. We got Wilson from the Relentless team showing us that positioning, being up near the front of the group, was a very good idea. It was worth burning a couple of matches in the first 10K to not get being caught behind these gaps happening in the back half of this group. It is starting to come back together now, but it's going to be an active day.
Wilson, I think the initiator up and over the top of that little kick into the castle, now brought back together. I do see Charles McCarthy showing up from Velocio there on the back of that relinking of the groups, heading back into Breakaway Bray here, 13.3 kilometers in the next time up and over the top here. And these two kicks into succession as they go through that little lock loop break off there and then head back up Breakaway Bray. After that initial kick, I think Wilson knows that to push it twice in a row there, push the pressure over the top of that second kicker as much speed as you can, force racers to chase back on, and then go again before they're ready to recover. I think that's exactly what Wilson is doing here. Now, he may find himself in the middle of the pack because of this, because I think it's going to be really hard with an early attack like this to hold the kind of speed that some of those that are sitting in and waiting for a kick right now. The question is whether or not the pack is going to sprint up to them and really cause more of a split behind here. You do see this is going to take off about 10 riders or so, perhaps, if they keep this pace up over the top.
Yeah, well, so Nathan, one thing I've really learned with esports is these kind of moves that we just saw from Wilson, it's not so much attacking the race, looking to make a breakaway that goes to the line. It's more about showing riders the back door and reducing the size of the group, reducing the risk and the volatility in that group. And it's a highly effective technique. You were saying that it looked like 10 riders maybe going to get their ticket punched. We'll see if they come back or not, because one thing's for sure, you got to stay on the gas if you want to hold them off. Most of these riders realize that they're not here to throw in the towel 14K in. They're here to race their bikes. So they're going to continue doing exactly that as they turn themselves inside out. Going back, though, to the front of this bike race, this is a chase group, actually, that we're looking at right now, trying to rejoin the peloton. So these 5 riders, if they can start working together, Nathan, I give them a decent shot.
Yeah, we'll see how they can pull. The main way I think that these riders could think about actually getting back on terms is going to be through this forest. And if the riders at the front sit up a little bit, don't want to do too much work, now you can see the speeds. They just roll away on this downhill through this lock loop section as they do the little cutoff, and then take a right-hand turn into this misty forest in just a second here. They are 5 seconds up. Now, if this pack, though, sits up into the false flat, because it is a false flat uphill through the forest here. And a lot of times riders don't necessarily want to do a lot of work through those sections because essentially you're just dragging everybody with you unless it's a full tilt attack, full tilt at the front. Then it can make it a little harder on other riders, but you get a lot of draft through these sections. So I have a feeling they're going to sit up a little bit. And some of these riders, they're going to be able to work to come back. The question is, will they be more attentive? If it was just an inattention last time through, perhaps they'll learn their lesson to not let that gap go next time. Or the reality is it's just too quick over the top of Breakaway Bray for some of them when they press that pace.
There's two sides to that coin, Nathan. Sometimes you could say, well, if you got dropped early and chased back in, what's to say you're not just going to get dropped again the next time they surge? Well, there is something to be a counterpoint to that, which is some riders, the legs will start coming good in the event. Or maybe there was more than just a biomechanical issue, maybe a little bit of a dropout, something like that they'll be able to avoid. So, there's a lot to this. And unless you're with the rider and inside their head, you really can't know the entire story. That's part of what makes it so fun. Wahoo Cole's one of the super teams in esports now. I'd officially put them into that group. By super team, Nathan, I'm talking about the 5 strongest teams that you see. I think you'd have to put Next and Short in that group. BL13 would come to mind, Nathan. And but Wahoo Cole has done a tremendous job, and they're one of the very quickly, when you talk about teams controlling races, it's not quite like Tour de France here today, as far as there is no team that has 3 or 4 riders that they can use to do exactly what you were talking about a few minutes ago, Nathan, about trying to control the front of the bike race. Here, it's not quite every man for himself, but allies are few and far between.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to find them in amongst this crew, at least. Once in a while, you do get a race where you do have a pretty good amount of riders that are going to be working together. But this race here today,
not today.
It's really just going to be WLC, it looks like to me. BL13 have a couple in here, so I'll be watching out for them. I don't think, looking across, there's going to be a whole lot of help for the likes of Jay Brune or Holden when it comes to bringing attacks back. They're going to have to trust the pack a little bit more and instigate them at times.
And look for like-minded riders as well, even though you're not teammates. You made a great point. Jay Brune and Holden Camo, they both kind of have the same interests here. So not saying that there's even any unspoken alliance, but they probably do tend to work towards the same goal in the end.
100%. And when you do that, you do end up in a situation where you definitely are giving resources, and your communication with those resources, like Watts on the front at certain times, is definitely going to be a time when you want to pull things back together. You start putting those resources toward that, and you can see that somebody wants to work. And in Zwift, the nice thing is it's very obvious who's doing the work and when. In and amongst a pack of 15 riders or so, 10 riders, you can kind of lose track of who's really doing the work or not doing the work when you're outdoors. Here, you can just see, okay, this person's been doing the work. There it is. There's the numbers. Thank you very much. I'm going to work with them as well. And the infighting is can either be very obvious or it's like, okay, cool. We're working together here today, and I'm happy.
You're absolutely right. Esports removes a lot of the speculation and having a hunch whether he's pulling or not. Absolutely. And that's one of the fascinating things. Taking a look at our front group, so things are back together now. There's no question in my mind that we'll see a flurry of attacks coming on that last lap. But right now, most of these guys wisely keeping the powder dry. And we talked about, too, there's no one huge controlling force out here. A lot of times in the Tour de France, you'll see the teams have a discussion. The teams that have a sprinter that has a chance of winning, or the team believes has a chance of winning, and they'll start bargaining a little bit. Hey, if I'll pitch in a rider and you guys throw in a rider, that our 4 teams will work together to control this breakaway today, kind of thing. And here today, we just scale that down to, will some of these guys, like the aforementioned Holden or Brian O'Brien, who's strong out here, Iker Murel, are they willing to participate? And the other way that you can look at it is, this might not be a bad day to go for that Hail Mary, that breakaway attack where zig when they might zag.
Ooh, Kowalski suddenly off the back. I was not expecting that. A-Rider, something's going on here. Maybe he's trying to fix his heart rate monitor, perhaps. Not sure. But I think Bovary was even trying to give him a wheel for a second there. Wondering what was going on. Tom Bovary, good to see him. I'm actually seeing he's got some super fans in chat. So the R3R rider. I like his quote over on this ZPower profile. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. He's hoping that some of the talent that's in this field works too hard, and he can show up and beat a few of them, I think. He's coming out of the Netherlands. He's been a long...
Is that David
Kowalski's off the back. That's not
Kowalski.
David Kowalski. No,
right.
Just mentioning that Kowalski, for some reason, I think just got dropped.
Whose quote was it? Whose quote was that?
That quote, I'm not sure who said that, but Tom
relayed
Bovary is the person we're looking at right now on screen, the Netherlands, R3R rider. He, this is a rider who's a part of a lot of the broadcast. He's part of the R3R team for a very long time. I think he's upgraded to because like he is right on the edge actually of the A category when it comes to watts per kilogram. He's a 4.12 20 minutes or so, and he's got a good kick though. I think can produce about 1,029 watts for 15 seconds, which is a pretty good kick. So I think if he can make it to the line, he's got a chance for a solid top 10 or so. But we'll see.
He's in this group.
He's right here. I mean,
that's
he's in this
good sign.
Group. Yeah, big
right.
time.
That's very encouraging. Look who's tail gunning right now, Holden Camo.
Yeah, Holden.
Looks like, yeah, Nathan. I mean, you've raced against Holden. You can dozens and dozens of times in your racing career. The Ceres No Pins rider, who on paper is terrifying the amount of watts that he can make. 16.8 watts per kilo is his 15-second power, making 1,400 watts. And
yeah, and
really
that raw watts is insane. The raw watts there is the absolutely insane part of what he can produce. I mean, it's definitely scary. And the only way I've ever come up against Holden is by jumping into his wheel and timing it as best as it's not a power thing. Like I got good power up against him, but it's mainly I just timed it correctly because otherwise he just smashes me. And I think it's like a 10% or something up against him in the sprint for me.
Oh, this is like using getting that missile into the Death Star. It's not likely, but there's a chance.
Yeah, once in a while I use the Force.
Exactly right.
Yeah, once in a while
use the Force.
I listen to Obi-Wan and it works out. I think he is the Obi-Wan when it comes to sprinting. But here we go. Our Andrew's on the front. A little bit of a kick. Flores here. WEZ now. This is the section again, Dave, that we saw last time around. It's the first kick into the breakaway bray, keep the speeds really high. Now the question is, will anyone, that's the thing, if there's a team that wants to work here, they could really put people in the hurt locker. It looks like AHDR is also involved. They've got a couple of riders actually, didn't notice. They've got multiple. This makes things a little bit more interesting with a couple of HDRs on the front. Now Karoo2 coming through and the speed stays super high through these double kicks. Now we might see something happen.
So you see the group being reduced. It was Flores who launches that first move, and then the counterattack comes over the top. He tucks himself right into this group. So it is very aggressive racing going on out here now, looking to make this group a little bit smaller. I'd say, Nathan, at this point, they've almost halved the size of this peloton since we started. So it's been a rugged first half, and we're now really starting to bear down on the final at this point. Who are the best sprinters left? We've had a chance to highlight some of them. The rider that hasn't put his nose in the wind, which is an awfully good sign. Even so much so, Nathan, that I want to make sure he actually is in the field is Jay Brune today.
Yeah, I did see him earlier for sure. Now, has he made it? Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I definitely saw
then I would definitely bet dollars to donuts that he makes it unless there was some kind of major malfunction. But so good sign, to tell you the truth. If he's in this group and we haven't seen him on the front, that means he should have as much charge on his battery as possible. This is a fantastic course to race on. As you can see, they're really making the most of it out here.
I'm actually a little bit jealous, just to be honest. I'm like, oh, this is such a fun course because there's so much to do with this course. There really is. And, the way they calm down there, even though it's not necessarily the way I would have liked the racing to happen, because I like to create breakaways and instigate and create some dynamic stuff going on, I also understand why it's slowed down there to the point that people are like, we're comfortable here. And no, I'm not going to waste too many matches because it might not work out. But somebody could, or a team or a few riders could have rolled the dice a little bit more. And did you see how it spanned across? As soon as they came through the lock loop cutoff there, and it fanned across instead of it continuing with some speed, it was because it is downhill through there and then rolls into the uphill. And that actually slowed things down where people get just that 10 seconds, and that 10 seconds is enough to reload the ATP, reload the muscles up, and be able to come over the breakaway to get break all together. If a team or 3 or 4 riders would have pressed on and kept it into 50 to 55 kilometers per hour into breakaway bray, would have been a totally different story.
All right, going back now to the group here. What a mix this is, scanning through, taking some inventory. As Nathan, you make a great point. When this field now, it seems like In order to win, you have to risk losing. And that ratio just doesn't make sense right now for attacking out of this group at this point for any of these guys. But as soon as I say that,
William
like we're
Gnu,
starting
of
to see
course.
some
It's always
surges.
him. It's always Gnu. He likes to do this. He likes to press on
Very
at the
active.
front.
Yeah, so if you're going to make a move like this, you definitely want to have a follow through. You want to have a plan. That's one of the things you see as your racing IQ goes up and sophistication increases. Is every move.
I like this guy. His name, I accidentally found him because I think he's going to get lapped here in a second. But Brian Doing Things is his name, out of US of A, D rider. And he's been showing up to all of these, actually. I've been seeing him on the back end. He's part of the herd team. He is being caught by the A's here, but I just want to give him a shout out. Good job to this D rider.
Yeah.
We've seen him out here a lot. I like his name as well, Brian Doing Things for the and I think it's a great little name to be known by. This is the guy who's out here doing
Sounds
things.
like a YouTube channel.
Yeah, right.
Brian Doing Things, right? So, well, Brian, keep it up. And it's not like he's not making some big effort out there. He's pushing 2 watts per kilo. So nice job, man.
147 beats per minute. Good for him.
Yeah,
Absolutely
no, he's doing some things, no doubt, Brian. All right, so
they're pressing on big time. They're really
you can see it in the group.
Look at how it's pushing at the front. Wilson's now back up toward the front. I'm seeing it looks like Flores is there. Jay Bruin's actually straight up to the front here. He's actually following moves, knowing that it's the second half of the race. And Dave, there is some savviness that you got to have in racing, isn't there? That you know when is the moment, you know who to follow, and you know that it's probably going to stay together, and it might not be too risky to kind of be a little bit inattentive, be in the middle of the group, save energy early on, but later on, you got to start knowing who to follow and when a little bit, and those timings are everything.
No, exactly, Nathan. Jay Bruin is not hanging around all day outside the kitchen. He shows up right when they pull the pizza out of the oven and gets a hot slice. And that's exactly what we've got right now. This race has gone into that mode. They pulled the pizza out of the oven. It is time to eat, boys. And this is going to be the bike race happening right now. So, Kronjager, here, Nathan, this is going to be the first of, I'm going to guess, something like 15 attacks and counterattacks that will start splitting this group up. The guys clearly now, the horses can smell the barn, as we say. So Kronjager here is the rider on the front. He's the German. Let's see now. I see James Young, the TNT rider. He's also, Nathan, been incredibly active out here. And the Englishman Wilson also has been a huge part of the conversation. Will he continue to be? I'm going to bet on him. No doubt about it. This is the relentless rider living up to that name.
Yeah, and looks like it only had cheese on the pizza.
Beard.
Wasn't cooked quite enough. But they've decided to turn the heat up, throw a little bit of pepperoni and sausage on there, or maybe some peppers, green peppers if you're a vegan, and some
olives,
spinach.
maybe.
Yeah, olives perhaps. But I think they had to throw it back in the oven for just a moment.
Did anyone get dropped, though?
Yeah, a few riders. No, 1, 2,
3.
3, it looks like off the back here. So I'm going to see if we can find those riders, see who's unable to there's riders suffering here. 174, 173 right now. Now we've got the rider out of Italy here. The Baco just trying to scrape his way, but no way. 2.7 watts per kilogram, said and done. Wandon just getting back on terms here, coming out of Canada. So that's going to be 5 riders because it was a group of 50 to 52. So somewhere between 5 to 7 dropped off after they left the Misty Forest and went on through.
It's a tenth of the field that you just pushed out the back door, said put a lock on it, because I don't think they're going to be coming back with the way that they're racing now. Always remembering, Nathan, that the spirit of the racer is out there, but the way that this race is being thrown down, I wouldn't expect that once you lose contact, it's going to be awfully tough, especially on this course here. As a matter of fact, we're seeing riders right now just having to let go as they continue to press forward right now. So I have a strong feeling that our winner is on your screen, and well, I thought I saw an attack coming from the middle of the group, but I think things are going to remain as relative. It's all relative, but relatively calm out here right now as we're down to, let's call it 14K to go. This should be a good solid hour of power out here today, Nathan.
Well, Groom is on the front here. This is not necessarily an attack, though, from D. Groom. he's pressing the pace, and this is kind of his forte, is just to go
It's
steady
tempo.
high. And
Uh-huh.
it's 7 watts per kilogram for a moment there. So I mean,
That's
it
high tempo.
yeah. But at the same time, it wasn't like he jumped the group. So it tends to just give everybody who's in that middle of the pack, like, not necessarily where they don't have to work, but they can hold it steady for quite a while. It puts you in the threshold for sure. And some of the riders here, though, who are already over threshold and can't go there and can't respond any longer, that's where it puts a little bit of pressure on. So they're keeping it fast, that's for sure. And one by one, as we go through this, a little bit of a false flat again. It's a climb over to this banner, and there we go, 3 off the back. So they keep on doing it, Dave. It's going to keep on. If they keep this pace high, this is going to be a sufferfest for the last lap and a half.
Yeah, this is not the norm to see riders at this point in the race getting chopped off the back. And it just speaks to how aggressive and the fact that this is a GC battle, as well as, just to say, there's Christensen, the Dane, moving up towards the front of the group. So that ought to have some alarm bells ringing. Bertoni of the Australian Hump Day Ride team is there. Groom has been one of the stronger racers out here today as he sits still up on the front. So, Nathan, when they keep the pace this high, this is effectively like having one team trying to set up their sprinter, right? I mean, it's so fast that attacking out of this group doesn't really seem like a good play right now.
Now, as they make their way through, Dave, they're going to be thinking at this point, 100%, yeah, attacking now at this point, it's not going to be, this is not the moment any longer. You've come over the top of the main climb for the section that they're in, and they're going to be looking forward now to how do they use the speed on the downhills through here to hit the castle climbs that are coming up, these little kicks that come at them. There's a double kicker through here in just a moment. Then they're going to go around into the lock loop cutoff and then back up the breakaway brake for the third time to start their final lap here in just a moment. And it's worked every time. We'll see if they do it again, as it has been able to split the group. But are some of the riders going to be thinking, look, here's what I think is going to happen. My anticipation is 1 lap to go. The riders who don't want to all-out sprint, they're going to start really pressing the pace at every section that they possibly can. There'll be these little kicks and then sit in, little kicks and sit in. And it's this roller coaster. And if you know this roller coaster, you can take full advantage of the bumps on it. But if you don't, you just kind of get lost in a mayhem of haymakers that are thrown at you. Like, what is happening? But if you know the roller coaster, you can ride the wave of it and make sure that you're kicking right when you need to. Holden out to the front, interesting enough. That's an interesting spot for him to put his face in the wind.
Yeah, on paper, the best sprinter in the field. Interesting is right, Nathan. So going back to what you're just saying, it's going to be this series of micro attacks, almost unending micro attacks, absolute mayhem. I mean, the classic Donnybrook, to tell you the truth, you don't know where it's coming or what's next. And here we go. Exactly what Nathan is talking about is what we're witnessing right now. So it's going to be backpedal getting up there with Andrews and then coming over the top. And look at this. It's just going to be old school fury here in Scotland as we're down to right around 10 kilometers of racing. Nathan, the thing that's interesting to me is if you've weathered the repeated storms to be in this group right now, as Flores is attacking for his third time out here today, is these are the riders that have shown themselves to be almost undroppable. And at some point now, you have to start honing in on the finish and looking at what resources you have and where do you want to apply them. At this point, I'm going to start thinking about saving everything for my sprint, not worrying about trying to drop any more guys.
Yeah, and if that's really what you're thinking about as a sprint out here today and you're not positive that you can actually cause any kind of breaks or splits to happen, you're definitely going to be thinking, look, how do I conserve energy and just follow these wheels, ride the roller coaster, go with the waves as best as I can, surf it more like trying to crash everybody out, and
Exactly.
I think there is going to be the riders like Brune, like Holden, maybe a couple others here with some big sprints. We'll see who else might have the right numbers for that. What's really interesting though, Dave, do you see how the riders are moving around? You're starting to see something similar to what you see in real life, aren't you? Where all of a sudden people are shifting where they're at and others are following along, and the pack is kind of following this school of fish look almost, where they're trying to find that draft. And that's the addition of all the steering that's been out there now, which is pretty cool to see. Now into the breakaway bray again. Has there been the speed high enough to snap any kind of elastic now as BL13 make their way to the front?
Zwift Play, the game changer that's actually a game changer, Nathan. And I mean, think about it. Whose wheel do you want to be on at 500 meters to the line, right? Well, I'd go with Holden myself, which if I have a Zwift Play and have made that investment in my racing, that's going to give me an opportunity to be where I want to be in this group. And you can see another surge is coming right now. Here we go, Lithgow. BL13, one of the teams that's got a few riders in this group, Nathan. Let's see if they can use that to their advantage here.
WLC setting up well. Jay Bruins here right in the middle of the pack. It was, I think, again, Flores perhaps going off the front there, making his move. Yep, WEZ here with Flores. Right on his wheel is Barnhorst, and it's going to be James Young. Buell as well, super attacker early on. Buell not quite as aggressive at this point in the racing as we saw him at the front end of the race early on. Left-hand turn in just a moment, and then they're going to head over to the forest.
See how when James Young came up to the front, Nathan, he wants to be near the front, but not on the front. He wasn't trying to hold that position. He just doesn't want to slide further than it looks like 10, 15 wheels back in this group for positioning. Because the one rider, just as you said, Jay Brune, I thought to myself.
There's lapped riders joining them for a moment, Dave. Sorry to interrupt, but that, like right there, now, they're not going to go the same direction, but they get this little surge through, and they're actually traveling faster than the group at this moment. They're going to go left in just a second, but I've never actually seen that on this course. Makes things a little bit interesting for that group. But they should take a left-hand turn here, unless they're way... no, that's the only way. If they're coming from that other direction. So you're actually going to see the group split here, left and right. There's the group that's a little ways behind, and there's the right wild? With the A's. Yeah, that was interesting.
That's an interesting moment for sure. All right, back with our peloton without any interlopers in it. Actually, there's not. What could they do? Two different races being married together. But back now to the front group for our A's. World Elite Zwifters represented as they should be. Another one of the powerhouse squads that we've enjoyed for many years in that elite group of legacy teams. But Nathan, really is starting to look to me like these guys are doing exactly what we're talking about. They're recalibrating. They're starting to think sprint and realizing that this has been a hard race. Been rugged out here today. We've now coming up on 45 minutes. So, yeah, just trying to load it up for one big sprint, I would imagine, but always keeping in the back of your mind the fact that someone like, and that's what I was going to talk about before those two groups came together, was that Jay Brune is the kind of rider that might attack you from 2K out, and that's a huge advantage for him, is that he has a huge spectrum of ability.
Yeah, I have seen him take some pretty crazy flyers actually in the past. 1K usually.
Wasn't that how he made the world's
2K,
team?
2K is a little bit much, I think, for Brune. Maybe, I don't know, especially amongst this crowd. But yeah, I would say 1K. Yeah, he's one who's willing to take risks for sure out there. So
he'll get out in front of a sprint.
And now this section, sprint. I wanted to talk about something here real quickly on this section, what they're not doing, but I'm surprised they're not doing. Well, they're a little bit. They are a little bit now, as you do see Andrews there from Backpedal making his way to the front. But if there was a team, and similar to what you've seen Jumbo Visma and UAE doing in the Tour, these false flat sections out on Zwift, if you have a team, you can send riders who are working for the rest of the team to the front and just smash 7 watts per kilogram through that section and make it hard enough that you're sitting on at 5 or 6 and other riders are just over their limit at that point, setting up for the next uphill. So now there's a little reprieve as they head through this little mystical Stonehenge-like section. They're going to take a left-hand turn, and there's another climb all the way up to the postcard section by the castle on the left-hand side. And so, you do have these opportunities. And a lot of times some of the ways that people come into Zwift racing, it just feels like, it's just out of control and you just hammer and it's just people pushing some power on trainers. These little attacks that you see happening and the way that they're happening really highlights, to me at least, the tactics that can be employed. As you see Baldry now making a serious move, looking to make a break now after everybody kind of put their heart rates pretty high up there coming through the mystical forest, now heading toward postcard.
At the top of the broadcast, Nathan, we kind of laughed as you said the new Scotland. It's not exactly new, but it's still fresh. And I definitely feel like this is going to become one of the top 3 all-time race courses that we're on right now. How about Bouvry? The Dutch rider is just punching above his weight today. The R3R man is now opening up a bit of a gap. This is all courage, and it's what we talked about. There's always going to be somebody who wants to roll the dice. So the peloton is not going to play around too much with this, just by the nature of the beast. They're going to keep the speed high. But certainly this is how you show yourself to be a man of courage out here. So they're going to bring the Dutchman back, but that was a noteworthy attack here late in the races. We're down to, let's call it 5K to go.
Loving the ZRL helmet. Nice and matching with some of those Watch the Femme glasses. Great to see. It was a nice little move. I think he was hoping for some riders to come across to him. Not do that solo. I definitely would have been. I would have been looking for, please, somebody come across up in the 180s, and then they could have worked together on this uphill. But now the pace gets caught, and is anyone going to go up and over the top? That's really when things tend to really work out, is when you get counter after a counter after a counter. Eventually, the pack just cannot handle it any longer. But it does get neutralized as they make the way up over the top of the postcards castle section climb. They're going to come back through that UCI banner and back in the downhill for the final time through the castles and into the breakaway bray.
So I've heard it said when you're talking with young riders, junior riders, or development teams, that one thing when you're watching a race that's a great idea to do is go back at 20K, 30K, and 40K out and watch for where the winner was then. Well, watch where Holden is all the way at the back of the group right now. So he really is trusting, Nathan, that this is going to be a sprint.
I wonder who so y'all just going for 5th place. I want to know Bovary's top 5. Because he's obviously has marked 4 people because I'm looking at Holden, I'm looking at Bergen, Mundell, Buell, Brune, Young.
Brune.
I mean, those all 4 or 5 of those have insane 16.8. Bergen's up in the 15.8. Mundell's 15.7. Buell there 14.7. Brune as well. That's 14.7 for. And these are all their 15-second powers. So
don't sleep on Trev Daddy, the Canadian on Alpha, Jeremy Lithgow, also a BL13 rider.
Yeah, some of the raw watts are better than the watts per kilogram too. So
yeah, so and these are the kind of events where you have breakthrough performances as well. So I realize that that's part of the benefit of that you have being a long-time journeyman veteran esports racer is that your name is recognizable. But we also are at a time when riders come out of the woodwork left, right, and center. And I would not be surprised to see someone set a personal best out here like Dominic Rath, one of the Dragons, a German rider who can also make a really, really tasty sprint.
Lot of one other thing to point out is there is a lot of ranking points available in this crew here. A lot of very high top ranked Zwifters. So both on ZPower, there's going to be some pretty big adjustments happened if anybody who's not in the higher ends of the ranking score that shows up is able to grab a solid result. So it is a strength of field ranking as well over on ZPower. So definitely, I think some of the riders here are going to be thinking about that. Brune right where he needs to be. Look at this. He's getting a lot of free speed right now. He's not going to even roll through. Brings it all the way down to 2.3 watts per kilogram. And at 52 kilometers per hour, he's setting up for a sprint. We're into the last 3K here, Dave, and it's been controlled pretty well. I think it's a sprinter's delight unless we get a breakaway attempt here with about 2K to go. I would not be surprised one bit if there's a couple kicks through these next punchers, though.
Oh, I would even say there will be. No doubt about it, but my anticipation is that they'll be able to cover and kill any of these moves. This is a strong, motivated group. You've got everybody here basically came to sprint. And Wahoo Lecole has a little bit of an advantage right now, Nathan, in my mind, with the numbers that they have in this group and the talent of those riders. But yeah, Holden, Camo, Jay Brune, these riders came here to sprint. They've done the work they needed to be in position to have a crack at it. And it certainly looks like that's the way things are going to go now. Look at Jay Bruin moving up. As a matter of fact, here it is. Here's the attack. Jay Bruin is gone. He is hit out with authority. So, Nathan, I was anticipating something like this, and Jay Bruin has gone absolutely nuclear now. And look at the damage that this is doing to the race.
Bruin, 12.7 watts per kilogram. What is this? This is an early go. What? And I'm a little surprised at him with this here. This is not a tactic I was expecting from Bruin whatsoever. I thought he'd be sitting in. He's putting a little bit of a sting into the legs of the riders here. And now going to the far left-hand side, he's trying out the steering. That's what this is about, Dave. He doesn't want anybody on his wheel.
Notice.
He is all in.
No,
he is all in.
Nathan, I anticipated something like this, just knowing that he wasn't here to put socks on centipedes. This guy is here to race. And right now, he is like a pigeon on chips. He's absolutely going for it. So
3 seconds. 3 seconds. What is this?
Incredible.
I don't know if he can do it, though, Dave. I mean, at 55, 54, Diaz here, they're doing 54 as well. He's matching their speed. I've never seen anything like this on the Scotland course. Can Bruin do it? He's using the plays to his advantage. But, Dave, they're going to come on like a freight train in just a moment here. It's going to be very difficult to hold on.
As the great Gordon Lightfoot says, heroes often fail. But I have a feeling that no matter what, this is going to go down as one of the most memorable solo attacks in the history of esports racing. So right now, again, the chase is starting to splinter. This is Vanderlei. So Vanderlei now is alone. This even benefits Bruin more, is rather than an organized chase, they're starting to splinter. This is going to go to the line, baby.
He can do it. If he has another kick, though, he has to have another kick. He has to. Oh, he doesn't have another kick. There's no orange numbers, Dave. It's going to fade. They're coming on too strong, I think. He's trying to get to the right section of the course, cutting as best he possibly can, but here comes James Young. 10 watts per kilogram. It was a valiant effort, but no go. Holden Camille. There it is, and that's why I think he knew perhaps that Holden might be too much. Holden all the way to the line. 13 watts per kilogram. Flores on his wheel. Flores might have timed this just perfectly. Flores, Camille does it. Holden holds on to the line. That was such a race of, oh my gosh, tactic is what it was all about. And Holden made it happen. But Bruin, Dave, a heartbreak for him, but it was valiant effort.
It's interesting, Nathan. You could say heartbreak, but in a lot of ways, he's got to be thrilled because that is what the DNA of a bike racer is all about. It doesn't always pay off. As a matter of fact, it rarely does. But when you have that kind of courage, you're at another level. So Jay Bruin will walk away as today's most courageous racer. Holden Camille, the multi-time U.S. national champion, and legend status was unlocked a long time ago for Holden. So congratulations, though, on another great ride from Holden Camille. He played his cards right, Nathan, but Jay Bruin raced with his heart.
100%. That was one of the best. That was one of the best finals we've seen in quite a while, actually. Absolutely love.
I'm going to say this season. That's the best I've seen.
Yeah. I'd have to agree. I really would have to agree there. As we take a look here, and it took us a second to get the images there. Bruin came flying through so quickly, I couldn't even find him as we were heading into the final K. We end up with F. Brandy there as he's a left rider there, but here goes Bruin. Watch this move, Dave. Carry us through for a moment here.
Yeah, well, you could see he had, again, a lot of things to learn here, but he attacked from about 20 riders back in the peloton. So, Nathan, he was able to ramp up his speed, classic Nathan Guerra style, surfing through the group. So when he hits the wind, he's at top speed. He immediately gets 1, 2, then 3 seconds stacked up. And then this is where, we were howling at this point with excitement as the gap had actually gone to 4 seconds right through here.
Yeah, and as you can see, this is where the Zwift Play steering really came. And that may be also a little bit of what he was up to here. Let's see how this works out. If I actually go for this, I use the steering, I use the ability to work the group over, because the group has to take a little bit longer to stay on the wheels there. They do have to take a little bit longer ways through in order to hold the wheels. It's kind of like in real life, actually, where a solo rider or 4 riders together can kind of cut corners a little bit better than a large group. In a large group, a lot of times they get that fan out at the front end. And he ends up with almost 5 seconds here, but then when the ramp up comes, it's just too much into the hill climb.
Yeah, he's using Zwift Play, which is, I'm sure everybody watching now is aware of what we're talking about, but game controllers that became available just this summer to take look at how he's using them to take the real racer's line as well. There's not a millimeter of tarmac to his left now. And that's, if you were to freeze it right there, that was the perfect point to show you where the peloton was versus where he was, right, Nathan? You could see his line was probably 3 or 4 meters shorter through that turn that led them right up into this climb. So 3 or 4 meters at these speeds, it's not even it's not a tenth of a second. It's a tenth of a second. But you start adding those all up, and it makes a big difference. So I think that's a really good example of how Zwift Play is going to become 100% de rigueur.
100%. And so there it is to the line. Then we do see Camus come on through in just a moment and take this one down. Holden coming flying out of the. We don't even see him at this point. Then bam, there it is. 14 watt per kilogram roll over the top. I mean, and then, Flores timed it really well to grab his wheel. He was obviously waiting for this moment, but Holden just a little bit too much power, raw wattage over the top. I mean, Flores, you can see, though, the drafting, how much it matters, because he's only doing 10 watts per kilogram, where Holden's still holding somewhere between 11 and 13, and Flores almost comes around. So, as you can see, it really matters whether or not you're able to time things correctly and hold a wheel and get that tactic just perfect. Looking behind here,
I mean, Holden has just gone goblin mode at that point. I mean, Flores would have beaten any mortal human and come around, but just not Holden Camo, who clearly is back on his A game for sure.
And it's great to see him out here racing and having a solid ride.
It's been a long time for me.
It has been a while.
So welcome back, Holden. Nice to see you out racing. Looks like our C's are still out on course. They've got a little less than 2K for this group that Nathan has found.
Yeah, I'm moving our way forward here. I believe the next group of C's is going to be containing Blake Chalson, actually, making his way to the line for our second place. So this is going to be our second place. We did have a sprint with Imahara just a moment ago, who will be our first place C category rider, who did just cross the line in and amongst some B's. But this is the battle here for second place amongst the C's. The B category finished pretty quickly behind the A's. We don't have a replay of that, so I apologize. I think there were there any B's in and amongst that sprint as well just a moment ago? I'll have to double check.
Yeah,
we will get the results up on screen, though, in just a moment after we do check out our C finish here. For the podium, this is going to be second and third place, as Imahara was able to get away with some B riders.
Good on him, right? That's kind of the name of the game when we have all 4 categories out here racing, is trying to hang in there with the category above you as long as you can. Makes a huge difference. These guys really starting to ramp things up now as they watch the gradient kick up a little bit, and it is go time. Look at this in the green jersey here coming right out of the middle of the group. This is a severe attack.
Yeah, from Hispania, it's going to be Macas, and we've seen them a lot. Team Hispania out of Spain.
Yeah, great to see this team coming on strong, Nathan, the Hispania team. That mint green kit, you're going to see a lot more of that, but they're coming up and over the top now.
Look at the far left hand there. Oh, my goodness. Chalson here, though, coming through. He's going to hold on. BPCC, that's going to be for that second place in amongst the B's.
He took the win. So, not to get too stoked on it, but I think, Nathan, that what he did was found a shorter line all the way on that side. See this? And it must be, if there's a slight bend in the course, the outside line is going to be longer, and this is right when it starts bending, and he knew exactly what he was doing.
He found the dirt rider. Yeah. Did the dirt rider get it? He did. He did get it there.
And he Zwift played his way into winning that little kick. That's nasty. That's awesome. I mean, this Zwift play, I know that you did the wrap yesterday, and Eric Schlange was your guest. Did you learn anything
We
about
talked
Zwift
a
play?
lot. We talked actually a lot about Zwift Play yesterday on the wrap. And
It's
it,
so
it
cool.
definitely makes things interesting here. Hugh taking that far left inside corner. And, when I saw this from, this was prior to steering actually, but Emily Ehrlich in a sprint from 2024 last ZRL season really highlighted this on the Neokio course where there was a sharp inside corner and her avatar just happened to hit the right corner for her to take the win up against some of the top
Pre-Zwift
females
play.
pre-play.
It was
But I
just
was like,
luck.
whoa,
Yep.
that inside line, look at that. And I was like, whoa, if we really had steering, that also is something that definitely is going to be impacting races. Her avatar, it maybe not even just happen though. You can draft in a way that the avatars, if you learn how they interact with the pack, you can, without a steering device, kind of time it right so that it goes to the right section. I did that in the tiny racers actually this past weekend, but with play, you can just make it happen. And as you can see here with Hugh from Dirt, it looked to me like he grabbed that one.
Yeah, right. It's fascinating how things just continue to progress in the world of esports, and I just feel like this summer the engineers across the board, all of the different Zwift engineers that we have making this game so much fun, have just really stepped it up.
No play with Holden
So
though. No steering with Holden. As Flores on the
he's
wheel.
old school.
No, going well. He's just got
Holden's
the
probably
old
on a
school
fixed
watts.
gear.
Well,
Oh.
speaking of him, I mean, he set some sort of like indoor spin bike world record where like he spun like at like 200, like I don't know, 150 RPMs for an hour straight or something. I don't even know. It was like something insane. Like I'm not
I
kidding either.
remember that.
It was something
Oh
like
no.
crazy
And it
like
wasn't
that.
it 24 hours?
Yeah, it was
They did it
24-hour record or
right.
something along those lines. I mean, it was the most insane thing I've ever heard as far as spin bikes go. But
I
he held
think
the
that
world
what they
record.
did was they rode 1,000 miles in 24 hours on spin bikes, maybe, with something like that. Either
Something
way,
like that.
that
Yeah.
actually, I bet you he's embarrassed that we're talking about that, because
No,
what
he
he's
actually
doing
talks
right
about
now.
it pretty proud,
No, it wasn't.
actually.
Yeah, no, it's just very different, I
It is
should
very
say, than
different.
what he's
Yeah, yeah.
doing. It
Very,
wasn't a
very different.
power-based thing that like he just
Yeah.
showed us.
Yeah, interesting. Now 36.1 kilometers in. Brandy here. Just want to give the shout out to the D riders. Nada there as well, and Berger. They are pretty well separated, so I think this is going to be the order that they will be finishing in. But we just want to definitely highlight the D riders that are out there. 158 beats per minute. He's got about 4K to go for Brandy. So this is gonna be Frank Brandy out of the US of A. He
And
is level
when you look at it,
20
Frank's making some
Zwifter.
legit power.
Yeah, he's a
Out
level
here.
20
Frank
Zwifter,
is
50 plus rider here, smashing it.
he's someone who's obviously getting better. You can see, like, I mean, if you've never Zwifted, it's really hard to have these be relatable numbers to you. But somebody who's a level 20 Zwifter who's cruising around at 2.5 watts per kilo, that's a pretty serious effort. And I tell you, most of the folks at the spin gym or on their peloton would be keeling over. Tell you the truth.
He's also
Maybe
got
not
plays. He's got well, he's at least got steering. One thing I want to highlight, we do say Zwift plays often. It doesn't necessarily mean they're using plays when they have the steering there, just so everybody knows. They may just be using steering with another steering device. There are other devices besides the plays that are out there.
I always thought that it kind of looks to me like a deer head, deer antlers.
It does
but
look
it's
like
the game
antlers, doesn't
controller.
it? Doesn't it look like antlers?
Right.
It does look like antlers. It
Uh-huh.
does. So it does. It
Like a
means it means that
stag
they have
symbol.
steering on. So they could be using a Sturzo. Is it? I think the Wahoo bikes might have it enabled.
They
at this
do.
Point. Yep.
They do. There's a steering. You can activate steering in those bikes. So I'm glad you told me that. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have play, which that's what I thought. So that's why every broadcast I learn something from you, Nathan. But it
Well,
does
I
mean
was looking to educate the viewers, but I appreciate. I'm glad that we
doesn't help
figured that one out.
educating your colleague as well. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's what we're here for. We're here for.
It's
Everybody's
interesting
getting
because I
smarter.
remember when the
Isn't that what commentary is for? Like, what is commentary for?
Absolutely.
Commentary is for education, right?
Entertain and educate.
Expound about what's happening. So,
It's
16
supposed to
stages
educate
done.
and
2 to
entertain.
go. 2 to go. Hugh Road, 3 meters less than those without Zwift play. That's a good call. You can cut the course. I wouldn't say cut the course, but you can take, and this happens in real life, right? Like if you take an outside corner, you're traveling further.
Not say cut the course.
Yeah, I don't know about cut the course. But.
It's a mountain biking no for sure. Road cycling, you don't hear about that much, but mountain biking, every now and then I laugh when they're like, "Hey, he didn't even do the whole course."
Sammy Nada out here. He's a minute back from Brandy. I'm just going to highlight the riders that are in the D category that'll be in the top 10 or so. Berger's here as well. Nice job to them. This is a battle for second place between Berger and Nada. Sammy Nada. And then Jay Berger is going to be chasing him down about 12 seconds back from him. And then it's going to be our friend CV, Liz Mantilla, the first woman in the D category out there. She's a little ways back as well. That's about 4 minutes back from Berger. Lent is there. And then our buddy Brian Doing Things is also still out there, holding down that 5th or 6th place as well. So nice little battle here between CV and Mantilla, though.
Cool to see the Aurora Borealis going on in the background in the sky out here. This is going to be the most popular. I have a feeling this might pass Richmond as the most popular race course here in Scotland.
What's interesting,
take a look at
I think this course, it's interesting because there was a lot of hype around it up front. And then it's like, oh, we did Scotland a bunch, but I think we're going to get a resurgence now coming into Worlds.
I do too.
I really do.
It was introduced at the end of the season, the kind of the winter season last year. So we never really got to sink our teeth into it, I'd say. And now, obviously, we are for sure. And the actual world championships are going to be happening here coming up in the next couple of weeks. The first half of August is going to be all about Super Worlds.
100%. Well, Dave, we do have results coming in. The D Riders, we gave a little bit of highlight there. They're going to help us out with as they finish up their route. Brandy's got about a little over K and a 2K, about 2K to go or so to his finish. But the C Riders have finished up their top 10, so let's go ahead and bring them in for their results. And it was Roy quite a ways ahead at 2:54, was able to latch on to a solid B crew and sprint with them to the line. That's in first place. For the C's, Dave, take us on through.
You bet. Thanks, Nathan. So Roy Imahara for BPCC taking the win with the impressive 3.9 watts per kilogram. Outstanding job here. This is our C's that we're looking at with Jeff Hugh of the Dirt team taking the silver medal today in Chasing Yellow, stage 16. Blake Charlson ends up in third with the bronze cup. It's going to be George Clark in fourth, Philip Irvine in fifth, Bill Fiber in sixth. Ben Wisby for seventh today. Shane Lee of the Bonn USMES team, the military team, in eighth. Jeroen van den Tuin in ninth. And then Niels van der A of the Velos team. That's your top 10. Great job, guys.
Coming on through for the B's. Is that going to be... Did we just get a copy? No, we didn't. I saw Jeff Hugh and was like, whoa, Jeff Herrera. I thought we mixed them. And that was actually a sprint to the line. For the B category, nice job on them with a 52.08. It was only, half a second's a pretty good kick to the line for Jeff. Sometimes on that breakaway Bray, because of that uphill sprint, you can get some gap between you and the other riders. It does look like they had a little bit of a breakaway formed, though, to be able to be up ahead with three riders. Yeah, nice job. Russell Andrews, the backpedal there in second place. Going to be Bodo Pardo from Hispania in third place. Thomas Sorensen comes through for Sisu. He's over on YouTube as Mr. Pedal. A bit of a shout out there. Fourth place comes on for him. Shuhei Italia, 1:8:49, 11 seconds back because I think they were able to break him in the final Ks. Stuart White there, TFC, sixth place. Valerio Di Bacco there coming through in seventh. It's going to be Dennis Leaflink, DWD, in eighth place. Vele Kivela in ninth. And Sver Amran for Sisu. 325 back in 10th place. That's your top 10 for the B category. On over to the A's, and Holden Camus does it again. See if we see him coming up in this Zwift Racing League season. Cool to see Holden out. Domination.
Yeah, I felt like we are back in full effect with racing today. Some great names from the past and some new names to pay attention to today in our A race. Well, he's the Gold Cup next to his name. Feels like we're where we should be. Way to go, Holden. Holden Camo taking the win. See how efficient he was, Nathan? 3.9 watts per kilo, lower than anybody else in the top 10. So
If anybody
that's
knows
what
how
you
to do
call
it, he
Zwift
does,
craft.
right? I mean,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, nicely done.
Absolutely. So he races when it matters. Carlos Flores of World Elite Zwifters, one of my all-time favorite teams. Carlos, congratulations on your Silver Cup today. Daniel Mundell, BL13, representing on the podium with the Bronze Cup. Way to go, Daniel. Trev Daddy for Alpha in fourth. Jeffrey Vasilius of Australian Hump Day Ride in fifth. Braj Bergen of the V team in sixth. Eicher is the BL13 rider who ends up in seventh. James Young in eighth for MTNT today. R3R and Tom Bovary. Very impressive ninth place from Tom today. And then C. Wilson of Relentless rounds out our top 10. There you have it on a very fun chasing tour day. These riders have been doing a stage every day since the 4th of July as they continue on their way to their virtual Paris.
And just as we finish the results, we get to see the finish of Brandy. Our
Frank.
number one, great job to Frank. Our number 1D rider out on course. And you can see he did 40.6. Was able to use his Zwift plays
Solid.
or his steering, it looks like, to get a little bit less distance out there. Nice job, Frank. Finishing up for the D category.
Bravo.
Well, Dave, always so much fun. I absolutely love the Chasing Tour. That's going to be the last of it, though, for our Chasing Tour coverage. There are 2 more stages to go. If you want to jump into them, you don't necessarily have to be a part of it from the get-go. You can jump in anytime that you want to. You won't be counted for the GC, most likely, just jumping into the races. But I've done a few of them and really enjoyed the competition. I actually jumped in last Saturday to the Surrey Hills climbs, and it was a competitive group and a lot of fun. So over the weekend, want to do some racing and follow along as best you can with a shorter, best you can replication of what's happening for the day in the Tour de France. I have a feeling they're going to do it. I don't know what the course is tomorrow, but I have a feeling they're going to be doing a little bit of climbing as they look to follow along.
And then absolutely, and then a sprint day to wrap things up, you would think. But in this world, you never know. Keeping us on our toes. But yeah, that was a super fun race today, Nathan.
Yeah,
Absolute
really
blast.
fun. Really fun. Loved it, and great to see a lot of the big esports teams and names coming out of the woodwork. I have a feeling that has everything to do with the fact that we're only about a month and a half away, Dave, from the kickoff of a lot of the big racing and ZRL that will be coming. Watch out for announcements. I have a feeling that WTRL is going to start ramping up, so watch out for that. We don't have anything scheduled at the moment for the rest of the month of July, but as well as August. But be on the watch out. We will be scheduling them over the weekend. We'll be following along as best we can with whatever is replicated for the Tour de France Femmes, as well as I think we're going to be looking toward the Zwift Racing Series for August to try and create a space for people to kind of get their legs ready for Zwift Racing League. And I think there's also something going on with the Ladder League. Now, I'm not positive that we're going to be scheduling those, but they have been in contact with us. It looks really interesting. We definitely want to check that out if we can. That's a little bit more complicated. It's pretty cool what's been going on with that, where there's actually more of a tournament style, team versus team happening, repeated over and over and over again, where people get to the top of a tournament bracket. If we can make sense of that in broadcast, we're going to try to do so. But just some heads up on what's happening. Obviously, next week we'll be here with the wrap as well, with episode number 54, and Anna will be back, sat next to us. We'll hear all about her travels. And Dave, I hear you're traveling this weekend for some race commentary to LA. Is that right?
Yeah, Manhattan Beach Grand Prix. And one thing's for sure, Nathan, as I am there live at that race, I'll have my iPad showing me the finish of the Tour de France. And I really, really wanted to encourage everybody to not only watch and enjoy the Femmes as Tour de France Femme avec Zwift is coming up, but also share your joy. it makes now is the best time to let people know you're watching, ask them if they're watching, be an ambassador for the sport, because we finally have the tiger by the tail, and this is the chance to really elevate women's bike racing. This is the most important week of the year coming up. So I'm counting on all of my friends out there to make the most of this one and share the love. I know you will, Nathan, and I mean, it's just such a great energy. So I'll look forward to seeing you next week, and we can talk about the Femmes.
Tour de France Femmes starts Sunday, which is really interesting that we have Champs-Élysées, and then we also have Tour de France Femmes right off the back of it. You get double header watching Tour de France action. Men finishing up, women kicking off. It's going to be absolutely great. I'm really excited. Well, for me and Dave, we absolutely loved covering Chasing Yellow with you. Keep on with your last two stages. We'll see you next week. Be on the watch out for the coverage that is coming at you for next week, as well as the wrap next week. Head on over to ZwiftCommunityLive.com. If you become a member of the website over there, you will get some updates as to when we are scheduling our broadcast. And of course, if you just follow along over on our YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Twitter, those places all give you updates anytime that we do go live. For me and Dave, as always, we'll see you next week, and ride on.